Deuteronomy 32. We're almost through with Deuteronomy. Seems like we just started it the other day. Verse 1 says, "Give ear, O heavens, and let me speak, and let the earth hear the words of my mouth." Now, this is what's called the Song of Moses in Scripture. It extends throughout this chapter and also into chapter 33. Now, keep in mind the purpose of this song. We talked about it last week. It's a reminder to the people that when they turn away from Elohim and turn to other gods, that he's going to punish them. Okay? And he does not want them to forget where that punishment comes from. That punishment isn't coming from their new gods that they're going to start worshiping. When they turn away from him and turn to other gods, he wrote this beforehand. He said, you're going to do it. You're going to turn to other gods. You're going to get punished by me. It's going to be bad. And that's what happened. He warned them before, so they should have no question as to where it came from. That was just in the last chapter, 31, starting at verse 19. "Now therefore write this song for yourselves and teach it to the sons of Israel. Put it on their lips in order that this song may be a witness for me against the sons of Israel. For when I bring them into the land flowing with milk and honey, which I swore to their fathers, and they've eaten and are satisfied and become prosperous, then they will turn to other gods and serve them and spurn me and break my covenant. Then it shall come about when many evils and troubles have come upon them, that this song will testify before them as a witness, for it shall not be forgotten from the lips of their descendants. For I know their intent which they're developing today, before I brought them into the land which I swore." So Moses wrote this song the same day and taught it to the sons of Israel. Now, don't look at this song as something that's outdated. It's 3,500 years old or whatever. It's not outdated. It is 3,500 years old, but it is still very important for us today. We're told in Revelation that the redeemed in heaven will sing this song. That's in Revelation 15, starting at verse 1. "And I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels who had 7 plagues, which are the last, because in them the wrath of Elohim is finished. And I saw, as it were, a sea of glass mixed with fire, and those who had come off victorious from the beast and from his image and from the number of his name, standing on the sea of glass, holding harps of Elohim. And they sang the song of Moses, the bondservant of Elohim, and the song of the Lamb, saying, Great and marvelous are your works, O Adonai Yahweh the Almighty. Righteous and true are your ways, you King of the nations." Now, why would they sing this song at that time? Well, there's 2 reasons. One, they'll sing it for the same reason Israel was to sing it in Moses' time. It'll be for the same reason. It's a reminder that he is the one who delivered them. And secondly, Deuteronomy 31:21 tells us right there that the song will not be forgotten from the lips of his people, from their descendants. The fact that the redeemed will sing this song after the return of Messiah is evidence that this is true. Now, on the other hand, we read here that the 144,000 of all the tribes of Israel will sing a new song, and not just the old one of Moses. We see in Revelation 14, starting at verse 1, "And I looked, and behold, the Lamb was standing on Mount Zion, with him the 144,000, having his name and the name of his Father written on their foreheads. And I heard a voice from heaven like the sound of many waters, and like the sound of a loud thunder. And the voice which I heard was like the sound of harpists playing on their harps. And they sang a new song before the throne, and before the 4 living creatures and the elders. No one could learn the song except the 144,000 who had been purchased from the earth. These are the ones who have not been defiled with women, for they have kept themselves chaste. These are the ones who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. These have been purchased from among men as first fruits to Elohim and to the Lamb. And no lie was found in their mouth. They are blameless." This new song is probably the song of the Lamb we saw in Revelation 15:3. Only the 144,000 will sing it. Perhaps it'll be well known after that. Regardless, it's a song of redemption as opposed to the one of judgment and condemnation, which is what the Song of Moses is. Let's look at verse 2. Let my teaching drop as the rain, my speech distill as the dew, as the droplets on the fresh grass and the showers on the herb. The teachings are from the breath of Elohim. Moses said these teachings are to anoint the people. Elohim's Torah is to fill our lives. We read in Deuteronomy 11, starting at verse 18, you shall therefore impress these words of mine on your heart and on your soul, and you shall bind them as a sign on your hand. They shall be as frontals on your forehead, and you shall teach them to your sons, talking of them when you sit in your house and when you walk along the road, when you lie down, when you rise up. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates, so that your days and the days of your sons may be multiplied on the land which Yahweh swore to your fathers to give them, as long as the heavens remain above the earth. That was his plan. They didn't do it.
Right there. As long as the heavens remain above the earth.
Right.
When Yeshua comes back, it's going to come down here.
Yes.
I like that.
Verses 3 and 4. Deuteronomy 32. For I proclaim the name of Yahweh. Ascribe greatness to our Elohim. The rock, his work is perfect, for all his ways are just. A Elohim of faithfulness and without injustice. Righteous and upright is he. See, look at the contrast between Elohim and his people. Elohim he's the rock. He's perfect. He's truth. He's righteousness. He's upright. That's what it says. The next verse tells that his people are corrupt, perverse, and crooked. Verse 5. They've acted corruptly toward him. They're not his children because of their defect, but are a perverse and crooked generation. Well, Israel turned from Elohim. The people close to the root of the olive tree of Israel became a perverse and crooked generation. Therefore, they're broken off and cast away as not being his children. See, there's no salvation through lineage. There's no salvation through bloodline. It's through his choosing that his people are his. Verse 6 of Deuteronomy 32. Do you thus repay Yahweh, O foolish and unwise people? Is not he your father who has bought you? He has made you and established you. Because Elohim is our creator, he's our father. You see the relationship? Okay? We are essentially creators of our sons and daughters. That's where we get this relationship. He is our heavenly Father. It's exactly the kind of relationship we can have with him. This tells us of the love and compassion he has for those he's created and chosen. Verses 7 and 8. Remember the days of old. Consider the years of all generations. Ask your father, and he will inform you, your elders, and they will tell you. When the Most High gave the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of man, he set the boundaries of the peoples according to the number of the sons of Israel. This is a description of the dividing of the nations, which we see in Genesis 9 and 10. Elohim chose the sons of Jacob to be the ones to represent him for all mankind. They're the only ones he chose, are the sons of Jacob. Now, Paul paraphrased this passage in his speech at Athens in Acts 17, verse 26. And he made from one every nation of mankind to live on all the face of the earth, having determined their appointed times and the boundaries of their habitation. See, Elohim has predestined the nations, the peoples, their boundaries, when they're going to change, when nations will rise, when they'll fall. You know, these somewhat mystic things we read in Revelation just now. Well, I never understand all that. Yeah, you will. It's actually, all that we just read was very simple. We're going to cover a little bit of that here in just a minute, just to show you how simple it is. Verses 9 and 10 of Deuteronomy 32. For Yahweh's portion is his people. Jacob is the allotment of his inheritance. He found him in a desert land, and in the howling waste of a wilderness he encircled him. He cared for him. He guarded him as the pupil of his eye. Elohim's blessings came to the people in a remarkable way. He preserved them and brought them out of the slavery of Egypt to be his people. He has a father's undying love for his children. That doesn't mean he won't chastise them, because he did. When they turned from him, he chastised them. Verses 11 and 12. Like an eagle that stirs up its nest, that hovers over its young, he spread his wings and caught them. He carried them on his pinions. Yahweh alone guided him, and there was no foreign god with him. Pinions. What are pinions? Don't use that very often, do you? That's feathers. Okay? He's speaking in a symbolic sense here. Elohim saves them on the wings of an eagle, is what he says. In Exodus 19, verse 4, you yourselves have seen what I did to the Egyptians, how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Okay, what does he mean by that? He means he picked them up and he delivered them. Okay, it was all him. It's like being picked up by an eagle and carried away. And that's what happened. He delivered them. He took them out of danger into his protection to another place. Now, the Apostle John prophesied in the Revelation that this type of protection would happen again. And it did. In Revelation 12, verses 13 and 14, and when the dragon saw that he was thrown down to the earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child. And the two wings of the great eagle were given to the woman in order that she might fly into the wilderness to her place, where she was nourished for a time, times and a half from the presence of the serpent. Well, that's crazy stuff, isn't it? We'll never understand that, would we? We'll never figure that out. Sure we will. Let's figure it out right now.
Good idea.
There you go. It's all symbolism. Elohim just used it in Exodus. He just used it in Deuteronomy. And he just told us what it meant in Exodus and Deuteronomy. I'm going to take you out of danger and put you in another place where you'll be safe. And I said, he already did this. Let's take a quick look at Revelation 12. And I'm going to show you how easy this stuff is to understand. Revelation 12, starting there at verse 1. I'm going to go to my Revelation notes here. I happened to have them with me. Verses 1 and 2, a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. And she was with child, and she cried out, being in labor and in pain to give birth. Now, the key to knowing who the woman is, very simple. That's the way she's clothed. Clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. The sun, moon, and stars this woman is arrayed in tells us that she's Israel. You remember Joseph's dream? Genesis 37, verses 9 and 10. And he had still another dream and related it to his brothers and said, Lo, I've had still another dream, and behold, the sun, moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to me. And he related it to his father and to his brothers. And his father rebuked him and said, What's this dream you've had? Shall I and your mother and your brothers actually come to bow ourselves down before you to the ground? Well, yeah, they did. He went through some turmoil to get there, but that's what happened. So, sun, moon, and stars. Jacob and his sons. Jacob, Rachel, and his sons. That's who that is. This woman is given a great sign in heaven. And she's a personification of Israel. And it's Israel that gave physical birth to the Messiah. And she was with child. She cried out, being in labor and in pain to give birth. Well, she did. In verse 3, and another sign appeared in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his heads were 7 diadems. There's another sign here now. Crown. We know who the dragon is. The dragon is Satan himself. And we're going to learn more about him here in just a little bit. Verse 4, and his tail swept away a third of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth so that she might, so when she gave birth, he might devour her child. Okay, what were the stars again? Yeah, Israel. So a part of Israel was cast down to the ground. You remember in Matthew, when Yeshua was born, what happened? The dragon was there to devour the male child when he was born. In Matthew 2, starting at verse 16, then when Herod saw that he had been tricked by the Magi, he became very enraged and sent and slew all the male children who were in Bethlehem and in all its environs for 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had ascertained from the Magi. Then that which was spoken through Jeremiah the prophet was fulfilled, saying, a voice was heard in Ramah, weeping in great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children, and she refused to be comforted because there were no more. So it's prophesying about that incident that happened at the birth of Messiah. 1/3, now we don't know the number of the little ones that were killed, but for Herod to destroy a few hundred, few thousand little babies, well, he could do that before he had a second cup of coffee in the morning. Okay, that's just the kind of guy he was. Pontius Pilate, no different. Well, that was prophesied. And we're told now, by the time Revelation's here, this is all stuff that had already happened. He's telling us this in a symbolic sense, in a symbolic way. In verse 5, and she gave birth to a son, a male child, who was to rule all the nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up to Elohim and to his throne. Well, we're skipping over Messiah here with just a brief verse. He was born. He is the one to rule the nations with a rod of iron. He died, he resurrected, and he ascended. Okay? And we pick up from there. Verse 6. And the woman fled into the wilderness where she had a place prepared by Elohim so that she might be nourished for 1,260 days. This thing for days is Hamira. That could also be years, by the way. And come to find out, it is years. The time in the wilderness is 1,260 days. Remember two things. We talked about that before. One, a day in a year is a year in prophecy. And in that day, a year to the Jewish people, they go by the Jewish year. And the Jewish year runs in 19-year cycles. Okay? And it's based upon the moon cycles, the new moon sightings. And it averages 364.868 days in a year over this 19-year cycle. So that's what Elohim is using as a year here. What the people knew at the day that it was given. Therefore, we can convert this. We take that 1260 and multiply it by how many days in a Jewish year, then divide it by how many days in a solar year. Comes out to be something a little bit less. 1,258.71 solar years by our understanding of a year. Now, the time for Israel to flee. When were they told to go to the wilderness? So the woman fled into the wilderness. When were they supposed to flee in the wilderness? Israel. This is after the time of Messiah. Because he told them when to go. He told them when to go. In 690, what?
She didn't live 1,200 years.
I didn't say she did.
I know, but she was nourished for
The people of Israel did.
Oh, okay.
This is the people, it's symbolic of the people of Israel. We're told in Matthew 24, starting in verse 15, therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation, which was spoken of through Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place, let the reader understand what Daniel means by the abomination of desolation, which we do know. It's Islam, and specifically it's the Dome of the Rock. That's the sign that Islam is here. That's the sign the dragon's here. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the wilderness. That's the time to flee. Why did they have to flee? Why did they stay there and fight? Because they'd be dead. That's why. You know what happened to all the Jews in Saudi Arabia in Muhammad's lifetime? Either killed or expelled, every one of them. And there was a lot there. They were a strong, prosperous people in Saudi Arabia, or in Arabia at that time. He said, when you see that they've come to Jerusalem, this is the thing to look for. That means these are the guys. That's that Dome of the Rock. It was built in 691 AD. If you add 1,258 years to 691, it's 691.7, by the way. It gives us the following: 1950.41 AD. What happened in 1950 that allowed Israel back into the land, into Jerusalem? Well, in 1948 they did. But in 1950, they did the law of return, the right of aliyah. You can go out of the wilderness, which is the whole world now, and come back. Okay? He gave them the time frame when they could come back. You know, every Jew has a right to come back. Is that clear so far? That easy? Yeah.
Does that kind of relate to the lost sheep?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely relates to lost sheep. Oh, yeah. Well, let's look at verses 7 and 8. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels waging war with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels waged war. And they were not strong enough, and then there was no longer a place found for them in heaven. Okay, now we're kind of backing up here. We've got this time frame that we have. This took us to, some of us have lived this long. I'm a little 10 years short. Cliff, when were you born? You're not going to say. Cliff was born in 1970. So in Cliff's lifetime. Yeah, I know. You know, Satan, at this time, he says, Satan, there's a war in heavens. You see, Satan used to have access to the Father. We were told that in Job. Remember? In Job, it's the sons of Elohim got together, and Satan was there, and he talked with Elohim. Actually, at that beginning of Job, I'm not going to go there just for the sake of time, but at that beginning of Job, it was a feast day where all of his people were to gather at the tabernacle. And Satan was there. And he said, hey, none of your people are any good. I've been roaming the earth, I know. And he said, you haven't talked to my servant Job. And he said, you prosper him. That's why he loves you. Take his prosperity and stuff away. And you know the story. We went over it. So he used to have access to the Father. And wherever his throne is, wherever that place is. Well, he got kicked out of heaven. And when he gets kicked out, he has to go, he is sent down to the earth. Verse 9, the great dragon was thrown down, the serpent of old, who's called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. So this is a fascinating little verse. What he's talking about here, that battle took place after Messiah ascended, and sometime after that. I'll tell you when it happened. It happened in 622 AD. That's when Islam started. Okay, that's when Muhammad claims to have been with the angel Gabriel and had his night vision of ascending to heaven. And the great dragon came down at that time, who deceives the whole world. And, you know, when you look at the whole world, well, you know, what about the Eskimos? Don't look at every single person now, because that's Greek thinking. We're Hebrew thinking here. The whole world, a lot of people, and the whole world around the Middle East, which is where Israel is, all deceived, and it's coming. It's coming here. Just give it time. How much time do we have? You know, what did Yeshua say? If those days weren't cut short, what? Even the chosen wouldn't. You know, do you see that being true now? Can you see that real easily being true now? Well, that's what's happened. In verse 10, I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, now the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our Elohim and the authority of his Messiah have come. For the accuser of our brethren. Who's the accuser? Satan. He's been thrown down, who accuses them before our Elohim day and night. Well, he didn't want to hear it anymore. And they overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb and because of the word of their testimony. They did not love their life even to death. The ones persecuted by Satan overcome by the blood of the Lamb. The number of Jewish people who have been martyred by Muslim people is substantial, still going on today. That's who he's been after. Verse 12, for this reason rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. Woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, knowing that he only has a short time. Here he is. Allah is here, and he has great wrath, knowing that he only has a short time. That's the only consolation. His reign is a short time, but it's been a while. But don't let us, count what a short time or a long time is. To Elohim, it's not very long. Verse 13, when the dragon saw that he was thrown down to the earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child. Who's the woman again? Who does Islam want to destroy? More than life itself. They want to kill Israel more than we want to live. That's an interesting thing, which is why we can't defeat them. Verse 14, and the two wings of the great eagle were given to the woman in order that she might fly into the wilderness to her place where she was nourished for a time, times and a half time from the presence of the serpent. Well, that's just repeating what verse 6 said. We're coming back together now. Okay? We had what happened here on the earth. Then he told what happened in the heavens. Now they're meeting. Okay? This time, times and a half. That's 360 times 3.5 is 1260. Remember, the old reckoning of a year was 360 days. So it brings us to 1950. And how he told us, and we just read that in Exodus, how I bore you on eagle's wings. And what did he do? He took them out of Jerusalem and in that area and scattered them all over the world for their survival. Okay? For their survival. They went all over Europe. They went all over the Middle East. Came to America. Still not great in number, but they survived. And why did they come back together as a nation in 1948? In order to survive. That's your only hope for survival. That's why they were allowed that state. Verses 15 and 16. And the serpent poured water like a river out of his mouth. What's a river represent symbolically in Scripture? It's armies. Okay? A serpent poured water like a river out of his mouth after the woman, so he might cause her to be swept away with the flood. What do they want to do with Israel? How specifically have they stated? Right, sweep it into the sea. There you go. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and drank up the armies which the dragon poured out of its mouth. That's why they're alive today. Elohim personally has stopped them from destroying Israel. And the dragon was enraged with the woman and went off to make war with the rest of her offspring who keep the commandments of Elohim and hold to the testimony of Yeshua. Any questions? See how easy that is to understand? See how frightening it is?
I have a question.
What?
You know how all through Scripture, Elohim punishes people for not doing what they told him to do?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Why does he spare this person? What devil?
It's part of his plan. He knew this before the creation. It was going to work out this way. That's how he wanted it. Take a look here. Now keep in mind these passages. I told you that the key was Yeshua told them when they'd be carried away, when it was time to go. Look at the similarities. Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation, which was spoken of through Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place. Let the reader understand what the abomination of desolation is spoken of by the prophet Daniel. We've been over it in Daniel several times. He tells us exactly when, the very time, 691.7 AD, the Dome of the Rock would be built. It says it in Daniel. He says where. Yeshua says where. When you see it standing in the holy place. What's the holy place? That's where the temple was. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. The two wings of the great eagle were given to the woman in order that she might fly into the wilderness to her holy place, or to her place. Let him who's on a housetop not go down to get the things out that are in his house, because by the time you see the abomination of desolation, you know what? They're already established. Muhammad died decades before this, but his successors almost conquered the whole world in less than 100 years. Almost conquered the whole world. That's why he said, don't even go back to your house. You see that thing? Get out. Matthew 24, and let him who's in the field not turn back to get his cloak. But woe to those who are with child and to those who nurse babes in those days. But pray that your flight may not be in the winter on the Sabbath, for then there will be great tribulation, such as has not occurred since the beginning of the world until now, nor ever shall. We just read, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child, and she had to go to the wilderness where she was nourished for a time, times and a half a time from the presence of the serpent. Great tribulation, such as has not occurred since the beginning of the world until now, nor ever shall. People wonder, well, the Great Tribulation hasn't come yet. Oh, yes, it is. It came in 622 AD, and it's been going ever since. How does 670 million non-Muslims being killed sound to you? 670 million that have been historically documented. How does that sound? Sound like a great tribulation to you? And I've heard people say that Muslims kill 2 of their own for every 1 non-Muslim that they kill. You know why? Because if you're not a perfect Muslim, you're not a worthy Muslim, and you're an infidel. They have a lot of different sects, okay? 2 main ones, Shia and Sunni, which you know they want to kill each other, but within each other, they want to kill each other. There'll be great tribulation, such as has not occurred since the beginning of the world until now, nor ever shall. Well, it's here. It's here. And then go down to verse 22. Unless those days have been cut short, no life would have been saved. But for the sake of the elect, those days should be cut short. Verse 12, we just read this, knowing that he has only a short time. Any questions before we go back to Deuteronomy? See how easy that is to understand? Are there any questions on that? Does it make sense? It's not comforting, is it? Not comforting at all. Every chapter in Revelation is very easily understood the same way. Okay. Let's go back now to Deuteronomy, pick up where we left off. Verses 13 and 14. And he made him ride on the high places of the earth. He ate the produce of the field. He made him suck honey from the rock and oil from the flinty rock. Curds of cows and milk of the flock, with the fat of lambs and rams, the breed of Bashan, and goats. With the finest of the wheat and the blood of the grapes you drank wine. Elohim blessed them greatly. He gave them the land flowing with milk and honey. It's almost literal. It was so prosperous. It was prosperous for the people, prosperous for the wildlife, for the cattle, for everything. Verse 15, but Yeshurun grew fat and kicked. You are grown fat, thick, and sleek. Then he forsook Elohim who made him and scorned the rock of his salvation. Yeshurun means upright one. It's a sarcastic term, kind of an ironic reference to Israel. They got fat and happy. They didn't need Elohim anymore. They scornfully esteemed the rock of his salvation. The rock of his salvation. That's a direct reference to Elohim. Verses 16 and 17, they made him jealous with strange gods. With abominations, they provoked him to anger. They sacrificed to demons who were not Elohim, to gods whom they have not known, new gods who came lately, whom your fathers did not dread. You know, these other supposed gods, they're demons. And we're told in other parts of Scripture that's what they are. In Psalm 106, starting at verse 32, they also provoked him to wrath at the waters of Meribah, so that it went hard with Moses on their account. Because they were rebellious against his spirit, he spoke rashly with his lips. They did not destroy the peoples as Yahweh commanded them, but they mingled with the nations and learned their practices and served their idols, which became a snare to them. They even sacrificed their sons and their daughters to the demons. You know, people say demons aren't mentioned in the Tanakh. Yeah, actually, they are. Not as pronounced, but as in the Brit Hadashah. Even sacrificed their children to them. Well, I'll be darned. See that today, don't we? Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians 10, verse 20, "No, but I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to demons, not to Elohim. I do not want you to become sharers in demons." Cliff reminded me of my Facebook post I put up yesterday. It's that little ugly lying troll named John Hagee talking, and money grubbing. But he came out, he said something. What? Oh, he came out and said, you know, Christianity, pretty much everything in Christianity that we honor is pagan. Everything in Christianity that we honor is pagan. You can look it up. Okay, so what are you going to do about it? Nothing. Pass the offering plate, get more money. Verse 18, "You neglected the rock who begot you, and forgot the Elohim who gave you birth." Once again, Elohim, he is the rock. Verses 19 and 20, "And Yahweh saw this and spurned them because of the provocation of his sons and daughters. Then he said, I will hide my face from them. I will see what their end shall be. For they are a perverse generation, sons in whom is no faithfulness." Elohim's telling them the end from the beginning. That's what he's doing. That way they will know that he truly is Yahweh. Telling them this is what's going to happen. Verse 21. "They made me jealous with what is not God, with what is not Elohim. They provoked me to anger with their idols. So I will make them jealous with those who are not a people. I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation." You know, Paul quotes this in Romans 10, starting at verse 19. "But I say, surely Israel did not know, did they? At the first Moses says, I'll make you jealous by that which is not a nation. By a nation without understanding will I anger you." Isaiah is very bold and said, "I was found by those who sought me not. I became manifest to those who did not ask for me." But as for Israel, he says, "All day long I've stretched out my hands to a disobedient and obstinate people." Because of the disobedience of Israel, Elohim called another people in order to provoke jealousy. He called people from outside of Israel. Paul's quote, "All day long I stretched out my arms, or my hands, to a disobedient and obstinate people." And you know, I love the image, the imagery that Scripture uses. How all day long I've stretched out my hands to a disobedient and obstinate people. Okay, you ever tried to stand like this all day long? Not going to happen. Yep. Even when I was young and as an athlete, you know, one day in gym we got to put the boxing gloves on. You ever done that? You ever boxed somebody? That will wear you out. How long have I been in here? 30 minutes? That's 45 seconds. I mean, I could run 5 miles and be okay, but that boxing, warm, you hold them arms out. You can't do it very long. What were the people doing that was so disobedient and contrary? Well, some of the things are listed here in Isaiah 65. Starting at verse 1, I permitted myself to be sought by those who did not ask for me. I permitted myself to be found by those who did not seek me. I said, here am I to a nation which does not call on my name. I spread out my hands all day long. Sound familiar? To a rebellious people who walk in a way which is not good, following their own thoughts. Following their own thoughts. A people who continually provoke me to my face, offering sacrifices in gardens and burning incense on bricks. Not allowed to do offerings any place but the one place he designates. Who sit among graves. That's unclean. Not allowed to do that. Spend the night in secret places. Who eat swine's flesh. And the broth of unclean meat is in their pots. Boy, how many times do we have to go over that? When people eat clam chowder and bacon, they're thumbing their nose at Elohim, giving him this.
Well, most Christians are obviously not. He didn't choose him, or they could read.
Right. That's exactly right. They're just blind to it. Who say, keep to yourself. When you do these things, this is what you're saying to him. You're saying this to Elohim. Keep to yourself. Don't come near me because I'm holier than you. That's what you're saying. Okay? That's what he says you're saying. These are a smoke in my nostrils, a fire that burns all day. Behold, it's written before me, I will not keep silent, but I will repay. I will even repay into their bosom, which we have paid into our bosom. Heart disease is the #1 killer. There we are. Congratulations. We're doing things our way. Verse 22, for a fire is kindled in my anger, and burns to the lowest part of the grave, and consumes the earth with its yield, and sets on fire the foundations of the mountains. That Sheol means the grave. And notice the similarity to this passage in Isaiah 65 that we just read. How long will Elohim put up with man's disobedience and arrogance? Peter tells us that Elohim will judge the world with fire, just as he says here. That's what he says here in Deuteronomy. And I'm sure this is where he gets it from. 2 Peter 3, starting at verse 10, but the day of Yahweh will come like a thief, in which the heavens will pass away with a roar, and the elements will be destroyed with intense heat, and the earth and its works will be burned up. Since all these things are to be destroyed in this way, what sort of people ought you to be in holy conduct and godliness, looking for and hastening the coming of the day of Elohim, on account of which the heavens will be destroyed by burning, and the elements will melt with intense heat. That doesn't mean the whole world, okay? But that's going to be a part of the destruction of Islam. When you read something like this, like in Peter's letter, Peter doesn't say, I had a vision. Elohim gave me a vision. Elohim talked to me last night and told me this. No, all these things that they say in the Brit Hadashah, they come from the Tanakh, okay? That's where they get their information from, unless they say what I just told, like John in Revelation. John in Revelation, he says, I was sitting and meditating about the day of the Lord, and I heard something behind me, the day of Yahweh, and I heard something behind me. And then he had this vision of Messiah. And then in chapter 4, it says, come up here. He has a vision. That's what the rest of Revelation is, from chapter 4 on. It's a vision that he has. And he tells John, write down what you see and what you hear. John is not giving us the revelation to teach us anything. John didn't have the foggiest idea of what it was, much of what he wrote. He didn't understand it. I don't believe he did. There's no way he understood it. But he wrote down what he saw and what he heard. Okay? That's all Revelation is what John saw and heard in a vision. That Revelation is unique in the Brit Hadashah as truly being prophecy. What Yeshua talked about in prophecy, what did he say? When you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by who? The prophet Daniel. He says, look at Daniel. Daniel's the answer. And boy, is it the answer, all right. Good grief. Daniel 11 has a biography of Muhammad in it. It's crazy. A biography of Muhammad. Tells his little life story and the growth of Islam. Verses 23 through 25, I will heap misfortunes on them. I'll use my arrows on them. They shall be wasted by famine and consumed by plague and bitter destruction. In the teeth of beasts I will send upon them, and the venom of crawling things of the dust. Outside the sword shall bereave, and inside terror, both young man and virgin, the nursling and the man of gray hair. You know, the history of Israel bears all these things out. Verses 26 and 27. I would have said, I'll cut them to pieces. I'll remove the memory of them from men. Had I not feared the provocation by the enemy, lest their adversaries should misjudge, lest they should say, our hand is triumphant, and Yahweh has not done all this. Elohim limited the power of the enemies to wipe out Israel because this would take glory away from him. Elohim wanted Israel of the flesh to understand that Elohim used their enemies for his purpose. I mean, just look at Scripture. We just looked at it. I just wanted to go over a chapter in Revelation to show you how simple, easy it is to understand this stuff. Did you see that one chapter in Revelation covered 2,000 years? Did you notice that? Verse 28. They're a nation lacking in counsel. There is no understanding in them. Would that they were wise, that they understood this, that they would discern their future. How could one chase 1,000 and two put 10,000 to flight unless their rock had sold them and Yahweh had given them up? They should have been able to understand that Elohim is doing all this due to their disobedience. It's not really their enemies doing it. It's not their false gods doing it. It's all Elohim. Verse 31, indeed, their rock is not like our rock. Even our enemies themselves judge this. For their vine is from the vine of Sodom and from the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are grapes of poison, their clusters bitter. Their wine is the venom of serpents and the deadly poison of cobras. The immorality of the people they imitate is deadly. It leads to idolatry, homosexuality, immorality, adultery, and death. It's the only place it leads. Verse 34, is it not laid up in store with me, sealed up in my treasuries? Elohim's telling them the end from the beginning. Okay? He'll judge the other nations too. All right? He's using the other nations to judge Israel. Well, he's going to judge them too, and he did. And here's the vengeance. Verse 35. Vengeance is mine and retribution. In due time their foot will slip, for the day of their calamity is near, and the impending things are hastening upon them. Vengeance is Elohim's, it's not ours. The fact that man is not to take revenge is a law in Torah, and it's not just a New Testament decree. In Psalm 94, verse 1, we read, O Yahweh Elohim, to whom vengeance belongs. O Elohim, to whom vengeance belongs, shine forth. If you take vengeance, who are you stealing from? You're stealing from the Father, because that's his. You want to take that? You don't really want to take what's his? Leviticus 19, verse 18, you shall not take vengeance, nor bear any grudge against the children of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am Yahweh. This probably the toughest thing in being obedient to the Father, it would appear, as loving your brother. Okay, that's the thing where we can all get better on. That seems to be the most difficult thing for a lot of people to do. Not bearing grudges, not wanting vengeance. Verse 30, or chapter 32, verse 36 of Deuteronomy. For Yahweh will vindicate his people and will have compassion on his servants when he sees that their strength is gone and there's none remaining, bond or free. And he'll say, where are their gods, the rock in which they sought refuge? Who ate the fat of their sacrifices and drank the wine of their libation? Let them rise up and help you. Let them be your hiding place. When Elohim judges Israel, Elohim says they can look to their false gods for help and protection. Verse 39, see now that I am he, and there's no God besides me. It is I who put to death and give life. I have wounded, it is I who heal, and there is none who can deliver from my hand. Elohim's completely sovereign. He's the one who wounds, he's the one who heals. He's the one that gives life, he's the one that takes it away. He does it, all right? It's not that he allowed it. That people would say, well, he apparently allowed it to happen. No, it's him. Okay, it's him. He's in control. He is in complete control. And he will ultimately judge the enemies of Israel also. Verse 40, indeed, I lift up my hand to heaven and say, as I live forever, if I sharpen my flashing sword and my hand takes hold on justice, I'll render vengeance on my adversaries and I will repay those who hate me. I'll make my arrows drunk with blood and my sword shall devour flesh, and the blood of the slain and the captives from the long-haired leaders of the enemy. As Elohim just said, vengeance is his. He'll take it. He'll get it. Verse 43, rejoice, O nations, with his people, for he will avenge the blood of his servants and will render vengeance on his adversaries, and will atone for his land and his people. Elohim wants the people to know that just as surely as they will have been judged for their disobedience, Elohim will judge their enemies also. Verse 44, then Moses came and spoke all the words of this song in the hearing of the people, he with Joshua the son of Nun. When Moses had finished speaking all these words to all Israel, he said to them, take to heart all the words which I'm warning you today, which you shall command your sons to observe carefully, even all the words of this Torah. Elohim wants them to remember this song. He tells them to teach it to their children, as well as all the words of this Torah. Verse 47, for it is not an idle word for you. Indeed, it is your life. And by this word you shall prolong your days in the land which you're about to cross the Jordan to possess. Keep in mind, that land that they're about to possess, that is the kingdom that will come from heaven. Okay? And it's by that Torah that kingdom will be run. You know, the answer, or the answer to those that say, if we're predestined, what difference does it make if we're obedient to the Torah or not? We can't help it if we don't like it, don't want to do it. Not our fault, is it? Well, even though Elohim says in the future he's going to judge them, it's not futile for them to be obedient to him. He says, indeed, it is your life. Being obedient to his Torah is your life. That is what life is. Yeshua said, I came to give life and give it more abundantly. Well, what do you mean by that? He meant that he came in order for his blood to be the vehicle of the Spirit of the Father in your heart to give you a love for Torah. That's what he meant.
If you don't have that, if people you talk to don't have that, they can't understand it. You can't
No.
explain it to them.
No, if people you talk to don't have that, it won't click. It won't make any sense whatsoever. Okay? But that's what that means. But Christians will look at that phrase that he said and think it's how much they love Jesus, and they'll sing about it and dance around, and silly. Just silly. Well, even though we won't achieve perfection in this present state, we are to keep Elohim's word. We are to keep his Torah. It's not a futile thing to be obedient to his Torah because it is what life is for us. Proverbs reminds us of this fact also. Proverbs 3, verses 1 and 2, "My son, do not forget my teaching, but let your heart keep my commandments. For the length of days and years of life and peace they will add to you." That's what being obedient to his Torah will do.
You get to live longer here on earth.
Live longer on earth. Deuteronomy 32, starting at verse 48. "And Yahweh spoke to Moses that very same day, saying, Go up to this mountain of Abarim, Mount Nebo, which is in the land of Moab, opposite Jericho, and look at the land of Canaan, which I'm giving to the sons of Israel for a possession. Then die on the mountain where you ascend, and be gathered to your people, as Aaron your brother died on Mount Hor and was gathered to his people." Well, Moses' days are up. Elohim tells him to go up to the top of Mount Nebo and die. Verses 51 and 52. "Because you broke faithfulness with me in the midst of the sons of Israel at the waters of Meribah Kadesh, in the wilderness of Zin, because you did not treat me as holy in the midst of the sons of Israel. For you shall see the land into the distance, but you shall not go there into the land which I'm giving the sons of Israel." Well, Elohim is going to let Moses see that land where his people are going to inherit. He's permitted to look at it before he dies. Any questions on Deuteronomy 32?